Well, today we're going to talk about the brutal truth about building AI products or how to actually make success with AI products. Because the point is not necessarily to build an AI product, is to actually have a successful company. And when we talk about successful companies, it's always all about the money because as we all need to remember, when we work in companies, it's not a charity. We are there to make money. We're there to make money for the shareholders, stakeholders. But the most important part is through, obviously, all the things that will make our customers successful, because that would be the only way we will actually make money. So it sounds really simple, but in reality, lots of people struggle with it. So I remember the first time when I received a call from somebody from our board and the CEO who actually was talking about, well, we need to do something with AI, and we need to do something with AI right now. And I'm like, well, what do we need to do with AI? And the question, they asked was like, you actually have to do something with AI and like go figure it out. And the thing was that everybody talks about it. So when I talk to lots of CPOs of other companies, especially the ones within the portfolio of our investors, the story was the same. So at first I was thinking that I was like the only one, an outlier, who kind of gets those type of requests, but in reality it's pretty much everybody. And all of us having the CPO titles and I know some strategic titles have been there like struggling to understand what do we actually do right now. So we see that the board wants to have AI. Marketing obviously wants to have AI because the belief is that we will magically all become rich. Customers would think that they want to have AI because they feel like they have to want AI, right? And that's how it starts. The question is, again, how do we become successful? So before we talk about that, I wanted to say a couple of words about myself. I'm currently a chief product officer at a company called Spryker. We're a B2B digital commerce platform that focuses on large enterprises. And those large enterprises are really fun companies to work with because they are established companies that have been doing business for hundreds of years sometimes, and they're not easily innovative, or it's not that easy to convince them, which actually makes it really difficult to do something with being it AI or something else. But the thing is that actually there are many companies that, probably the companies that you guys work for, as well as your customers who are in the companies that have been established for a long time. And today we're going to talk about how do we actually introduce AI to those established companies and established products, because it's a completely different game than when you actually start a new AI product from scratch, being it lovable or any of that. There's a completely different game. So, but before we do that, so take your phones, because we will try to do it a little bit more interactive, so then you actually don't fall asleep after amazing food. We will get a quick question. So I would like you to join Slido. And I would like to understand, like, am I the only one who's being asked to do AI without a clear product strategy? Or are there some other, lucky people? I see I need to move. Thank you so much. Like me. So can you please switch to the Slido? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, well, we see that we definitely have some company. So people are being asked to do some magic with AI, because AI obviously is magical by definition, right? But at the same time, there is no clear strategy. So therefore, as I said, like, you actually should not feel alone, because that's pretty common. And like many people that I work with, I know, being it's within my company that I work for, as well as through my connections with many other CPOs and product leaders, that is a pretty common thing. So today I will explain to you what is my framework, and the thing that actually worked was the board that we are part of as a company, to help understand like how do we actually think about AI. And maybe some of those things are going to be helpful to you, and if not, I'm sorry for obviously the time, but hopefully you'll find something that is going to be really interesting. Let's go back. So first one, when we're actually doing AI without clear product strategy, we end up in this AI product death trap. We obviously have to do a little bit more with AI, then our customers don't use it. We already heard it from many people today presenting, being it from Booking.com or any other companies, that they have done something, tried to make it work for 2 years, it didn't work, then they tried to do something else, and then eventually it worked when they were able to get out of this death trap. But it doesn't work for everybody. So and therefore, you kind of like you do something with AI, customers don't use it, then you add more AI features, customers don't use it, then you add more features, then customers don't use it, and then you're like, oh my God, what do I do now? So today we're going to talk about some framework of how to actually break that cycle. So the first one is the most important part, that even though AI is obviously a really cool and important thing, and I truly believe in capabilities that it's going to provide, and I think we all believe in that, but at the same time, there's a lot of hype about AI, and a lot of people are actually building strategies based on hype. It doesn't have anything to do with what actually strategy is and what are you trying to build. So when you think about the strategy, you kind of need to think about really fundamental things. And there's not much that is going to be hopefully new to you. But when you think about the strategy, you need to clearly understand where your company is right now. Not just kind of what is your product, but also where are you right now as a company? Are you profitable? Are you successful? And then also successful in what ways? What kind of things are working and what not? And then most importantly, why do you need to change? Because kind of when you realize that you need to change something, that actually already gives you kind of that motion for where do you need to go next. When you're thinking about where you want to go next, again, we're talking about not building a chatbot because it seems like everybody's building a chatbot. It's not about building an AI search feature because everybody seems to think that there needs to be an AI search. You actually need to understand what kind of problem are you solving. So what is going to be that strategic change? And then come up with those 3 bets or 3 to 5 bets that you're going to be testing that will lead you to that path. Are you trying to become more profitable? Are you trying to become, you trying to grow your revenue? Or are you trying to reduce your churn rate? What is that problem that you're solving, and how do you want your customers to react to it? And what is going to be the value to your customers that you will actually convert into money for your company? Another brutal truth that I would like to talk to you about is, which I have seen with many product managers that I mentor, as well as all of the other product leaders that I have talked to. We see a lot of like product roadmaps and a lot of announcements of the features where there is an AI label. I know now we used to have product recommendations, now we have AI product recommendations. We used to have a chatbot, now it's a agentic chat and actually talks to itself somehow magically. Or it used to be kind of the website builder, but now it's AI website builder. And kind of all of those things are something that seems and kind of help us think that we are actually being innovative. But in reality, they do not produce value to our customers. And in some cases they do, but in most of the cases, and that's why we're hearing that 95% of all the AI features are failing because there is no value to the customer, because customers will only adopt it if there is a value. So how do you think about the value? It's also really important to go back to the basics. When you're thinking about the innovation levers, there are typically 4 main reasons why somebody will actually adopt your product and do something different with your product. So the first being, obviously, make it cheaper. So it might be making your product cheaper for your customer, or it might be actually cheaper, making product cheaper for you to serve the customers, and therefore the price of the product will become cheaper. So you can think of it as, let's say you have a company that actually runs translations for the company, right? So like if you hire people that translate the content, it has some certain cost. If you actually use AI, now the cost that you're going to have, even if you introduce like evals that involve people, still going to be cheaper. So that would be kind of the reason why would you actually make that product, and therefore the cost of the product or the cost to serve a customer are going to be cheaper. And that will make kind of this type of feature or this type of capability more sticky. Another thing would be the speed. So for example, again, if we're talking about, let's say, website builder, and you want to add some, AI-powered feature that allows you to create beautiful layouts of the page. In itself, it might have some value, but in some cases it will not, because ultimately what you're talking about is how fast can the customer get to the outcome. So are you actually creating the product that will allow the customer to get to the outcome as fast as possible? And if you do, then you have the chances of actually this product being adopted. If you don't, then most likely the product is not going to be adopted. If you're thinking about then to others, so personal and ease of use, kind of the same logic is applied there. You need to understand when you implement AI feature, you're not just throwing an AI label on top of the feature, and kind of the value itself needs to be absolutely clear to the customer. You're actually trying to move the needle on 4 of those levers. And kind of ultimately, pretty much every innovation that you will see in the world are going to be aligned to those 4 things. So therefore, definitely something that I would recommend you to think about when you are trying to suggest some AI capabilities to your customers, but also within your companies. Another thing that some of the previous speakers already talked about is that you have to think about your moats, like how to make your product more defensible, and not necessarily about the new model being a nano banana or anything like that. Because the point is that your product needs to be stickier on itself more than any kind of model that will come up today and maybe gonna be gone tomorrow. And there are like 3 different ways how you can actually make your product more defensible. You either have the proprietary data, and again, we heard from the speaker from Booking.com that they are actually building products based on the data that they have. And if they have the data, they will prioritize that type of capability higher than if they're building the feature that is just a wrapper on top of any kind of any of the models. You can also have a behavioral mode, like when the product gets actually better using AI because you actually learn about how the user is using it. For example, let's say if I'm learning German, which I do using Bubble, I would love that product to continue evolving to understand my level and kind of to understand exactly what I'm doing and where I am, not just kind of be one type of product for everybody. And then you also have a workflow mode. So you want to optimize your product for a specific workflow. I also don't remember from whom we already heard about that today, but ultimately, if your customer is having a certain workflow, you want to be there to make that workflow easier instead of actually just trying to solve for something else. You don't have to create a new capability just because there is an AI that will allow you to do it. You need to look at kind of their specific workflow right now and add AI kind of where that is going to make different, and you would be able to actually apply those 4 previous levers from before. So those are kind of the couple of principles of how I would recommend to think about like how do you actually suggest some AI product, suggest some AI ideas before you actually talk about this is going to be that AI feature or that AI feature. So now I wanted to also get a sense from you, kind of when you guys are thinking about your AI roadmaps and your AI features, which of the modes and the levers are you actually applying right now? So when you say that you're building AI features, which ones, like which of the levers are you actually trying to move around? And let's go to the next one. I guess I need to move. Yes, we see that it's actually great to see that not that many people actually don't know what kind of outcome are they trying to get with AI. Because funny enough, when I talk to lots of product managers, and especially like when we talked in our like the set of the leaders for within our portfolio companies, many of us, when we talked about like honestly where we are, we said that we actually don't know what we're trying to do because we got that request at the beginning, just do something with AI. We felt like headless chickens that need to do something with AI, and we're like, okay, like who has any ideas? Let's actually go and do something. Before we started thinking about like strategically of what are you actually trying to create, and then when you're trying to create that, do your customers actually need that? Do they want your product to become cheaper, or are they comfortable where that is? Do they need your product to become smarter, or are they totally fine where they are? And that's kind of when you apply that type of framework, it allows you to start thinking about, like, even if you ask your customers, it allows you to validate whether those features that you're going to be building are going to be adopted at the end. All right, so now let's move to the next one. Another area that, especially right now, because we are at this really big era of AI, lots of people are talking about AI being kind of that chance and opportunity to reinvent themselves and kind of create something that never happened before, which is absolutely true. I think AI does give us an opportunity to completely reinvent the types of products we had, and kind of similar with how internet changed how we work forever, AI is likely going to also change how we actually operate in the future. However, when you go back to yourself as a product manager, working at the company that you're working for, you kind of need to understand the context. What are you actually trying to do? What kind of game are you actually playing? Are you trying to evolve your existing products? And therefore, you kind of need to understand for your existing customers, what kind of evolution do they want? Or do you actually have a chance and the right to reinvent yourself? And would that be kind of like, and that revolution, is it going to be something that you would be able to create, first of all, within your company, but also would it actually change who your customers are? We also, like at the keynote today, which I believe pretty much everybody has been to, Stefan from Perlo talked about how he was reinventing the company with AI capabilities while they were still, like, while they were already successful. And it's an opportunity that pretty much everybody, especially when you talk to people at the board level, everybody kind of starts dreaming of this opportunity to be able to reinvent themselves because AI is here. But when you look at the list of kind of all the things that come with that revolution, there are lots of risks as well. I know there's going to be some benefits, like obviously you're going to be able to create a new product, new mechanism, something that didn't exist before. But at the same time, you're going to need to look for your new adopters, like people who actually are going to be willing to use that product, because most likely you're going to be changing who your customers are. Even their level of sophistication and willingness to adopt AI is going to be different. You also will see that you're going to be looking for different proofs, but kind of that's one thing, that's part of our jobs. But then you also likely have slightly different conditions where that type of evolution is going to be applicable to. So for example, here you will see that if you are going after revolution with your product, you need to be able to afford that. You need to have a long runway. You need to be able to make sure that your company is financially in that position where you would be able to do that. Otherwise, it might be completely safer for you to actually play in the evolution game. So therefore, that's also really important before, again, we talk about the tokens and how we actually do prompts, to understand which game are we actually trying to play, because at the end of the day, it's all about the strategy and the business that we're trying to create. So now, before we actually go into the fourth thing, because there's just four things that I wanted to share with you, I wanted to also get a pulse check, and this is going to be the last one, where I wanted to understand, when you guys are trying to come up with AI strategy within your companies, are there any challenges, and what are those challenges that you have? Is it about, I don't know, the skill set? Is it about resources? Is it about I don't know, leadership team support, or absence of the strategy? What is that you're actually trying to, or what are the challenges that you're seeing? Mm-hmm. Perfect. And it's going to be just, I don't know, one word or a couple of words that you can type. I'm just quite interested to understand what you guys are seeing within your companies. Mm-hmm. Compliance seems to be the one that is winning so far. Adoption, data quality, and data is definitely another one. Interesting to see how many different points of views we actually have right here, because some people talk about capacity, business cases, data and processes and resources, and the strategy and whatever that might be. And kind of like all of those results, that's pretty much what I was expecting. When it comes to adopting and having a clear AI product strategy, there is no consistent answer that people have. Pretty much, again, across the board, people talk about that, yes, everybody has a mandate to go and do AI, but at the same time, there's like hundreds of reasons why, I know, on surface, it seems like, I know, in other companies, really successful, but most of the time, they are not, and they are also struggling to understand what do they actually do. And kind of when I started kind of digging deeper into this, I realized that most of the time, people, again, like don't understand which game are they playing. Are they trying to play, again, this kind of evolution game, or are they trying to play the revolution game? Most of the time, they have to support their existing customers. They have ambitions to become the next lovable or whatever that would be. I know most of the time, they do AI features of any kind of sorts without understanding the value that they are trying to create. And that does create a lot of challenges for people to know how to actually make AI successful. So when I was talking about this with many product leaders, what we realized, if we can go back to the slide deck, is that most of the time, companies are lacking successful strategy for how to actually make bets. And even though, again, this is not something new that we would talk about, but in reality with AI, you kind of need to start making even more bolder bets, but at the same time, you need to have a strategy behind it. So kind of this was kind of a model that I saw from another place, but I truly loved it because it actually allows you to start thinking about how do you actually make those bets. When you think about kind of your, again, existing businesses, and most of the time we're talking about existing business that needs to evolve in the age of AI. We're not talking about the new startup that is like starting from scratch. They have existing product with existing customers, and that's kind of where the majority of their money is coming from. So you have to continue to optimize it. You have to understand, again, what kind of levers your customers need, and then think about whether AI is applicable there or not, but you don't go with AI first. You also need to start expanding the category. You need to start thinking about, are there any adjacent type of areas that I can actually play in order to make my product more defensible in the future, to be more competitive, and to make sure that I'm not losing the market share that I have. But at the same time, you also need to have the right to actually have those transformative, revolutionary type of bets that would allow you to redefine yourself, so then you are not being redefined kind of by somebody else outside. And kind of, so here, like I saw exactly this chart, like 70, 20, and 10. And I was like, well, no, like that actually sounds really cool. However, the truth is that you cannot apply this model to any company, right? And when we talk about kind of AI product successes, there's like many different areas of how you can go about it. So here we talked about like some of the challenges. But what do we actually do with it? Like, what kind of, like now, like I gave you 4 different areas to think about, but what do you do? And the thing is that I wish there was a simple answer of how to actually think of AI. So you obviously know by now that you need to still have a clear strategy, what kind of change you are trying to create and why. You need to understand what kind of value are you trying to create and make sure that your customers want that value before you start thinking about AI features. You also need to understand which game are you playing. Is it evolution or revolution for your product? And make sure that whenever you decide that, you have alignment within your company, and then you go after that. But the truth is that there is no single answer how exactly to do it. It always depends on your company, on your specific business, and without your leadership team understanding and being aligned with you on how to think about it, you will not be actually be successful as a product leader. So, and here's a couple of suggestions from me, and kind of also as well as a couple of other product leaders who I spoke to, of how we all collectively think that you should be prioritizing your bets. So if you're a VC-backed company that is trying to chase around or maybe raise more money, your bias would be for revolution. Because if this day and age, if you're trying to raise another round and you want to have more money to come into your company, you do need to come up with some revolutionary ideas. At the same time, you obviously don't need to abandon your existing customers because that's where your growth is coming from. So you would be kind of structuring your bets in a slightly different way. But you still apply the same framework that we talked about before. If you are the big public company, those companies are typically trying to optimize more for efficiency. So they're kind of, and those public companies likely have a huge customer base. So you have to be really, really careful of not abandoning your existing customers. So you're actually going to be more biased to evolution, but then thinking of AI features from that perspective. What kind of features will help me actually evolve my product and make sure that my existing customers continue paying me the money, so then there's more room for me to actually have the stock performance that I want. And then if you're profitable and private, which would be amazing, then you're looking for sustainable growth, right? And kind of that's where you need to be really careful. And that's actually where the biggest fun begins, because here you're literally trying to sit on all three chairs at the same time. You're trying to optimize for your core product, so then you actually stay private and profitable. Profitable more than private, but you stay profitable. But then you also want to continue expanding your territory, but you also want to have the right to actually transform and revolutionize your product, because otherwise you actually might be replaced by somebody else. So we're coming to the end, and I wanted to leave you with the final thought. Then when next time you're going to be asked to think about AI, so instead of asking, like, should we do AI or not? Are our customers ready for it or not? Just think about all of those 4 things. Obviously, take all the knowledge that you have about AI already, all the models, all the pricing strategies and stuff like that. But think about it, what is the right context for my company? Go with that to your leadership team, which will make you more strategic than anybody else. And then start proposing those ideas from those perspectives that I shared. And I can guarantee you that if you do that, you're going to be definitely seen more strategic, but also you're going to be speaking the language that business understand, more than just if you were talking about a specific product feature. On that, thank you all so much. You can always reach out to me if you want to have a copy or just to chat about anything. Love connecting with new people, and ready to answer your questions if you have them.
I hope my promise that it will be amazing and you will get a lot of insights happened. Now we're open it for Q&A. Questions.
Thank you, Elena, for presenting everything. It was really inspirational, really about mode for behavior. I think this is something that I really miss in my space in payments. So I was wondering, what do you think about, because your specialization coming from e-commerce, so you spent a really huge amount and a really interesting career. What is right now the biggest use case in e-commerce? So last year on Amazon, we spoke about that recommendation engines. This is where the biggest thing is coming with AI, especially with generative AI. What is your observation after ChatGPT 5 revolution? How it's going overall for use cases in e-commerce?
Yeah, great question. So when we think about e-commerce, there's now you're actually asking what's dear to my heart. So digital commerce is you always need to look at that from many different angles. So you have the people who are selling, right, and how they run businesses, and what what are the next steps for them. But then you also have consumers, whether it's being businesses or just regular consumers who are buying. So when you think about because I always worked in B2B software, so mostly actually thinking from the merchant perspective, everybody is obviously really worried about, are they gonna, is digital commerce still gonna stay the same, where we have all of those websites, stores, or whatever, which are millions, if not billions, probably around the world, are they still gonna stay the way they are? Or would people just continue, start using the LLMs as the source for the purchase and discovery and all of it? So I think there's obviously that's the biggest change that worries people about. And when we even think about, speak to our customers at Spryker, they are large B2B manufacturers, so they are not as impacted by it. But when you speak to other customers who are selling t-shirts, And, like, it's easy to go to ChatGPT and say, well, no, I have those pants, I have those shoes, kind of find me a t-shirt or a top that is gonna go with this. I don't need to go and like search even on Amazon for that because maybe that product is not there. So therefore, like, I gave you a lot, but I didn't give you any specifics in terms of what I believe is gonna be the next thing. To be honest, I don't know. It's like what's gonna be the next thing because the world is changing quite a lot, but at the same time, all the merchants are also kind of feeling that they don't understand the direction. Everybody feels like they need to go into autonomous shopping and autonomous bots and stuff like that, but other shoppers willing to actually use that? That's not clear. How do they, like, how all of that is gonna work? So it's not clear, but at the same time, I do believe something is gonna happen. Therefore, that percentage for the transformative bets, every single company that is in digital commerce space, whether it's being payment, search, digital commerce platform, whatever, they need to be utilizing that in order to understand what is going to be the next big bet. And maybe hundreds of those bets are going to fail, but maybe there's going to be a few that is going to stay forever. So that's kind of the approach that I take, but I don't have a silver bullet of what exactly is going to happen with digital commerce. Maybe you do.
Thank you. Okay, next. You are next. Okay.
Yeah, we talked a lot about B2B commerce in general, but most of the use cases for AI, they're kind of consumer based. From the platform perspective and the gravity that platform creates, what AI brings there, and would it change somehow, from your opinion?
Well, I would say it doesn't matter kind of what type of product you have, whether it's a consumer product, whether it's a like B2B, B2C product or a platform, because again, like you need to start thinking about like outcomes. So people buy software to solve a problem. So they either solve a problem or it kind of gives them something that they have not had before. For example, Nazar and I yesterday, right, talked about this platform that allows you to sell courses and kind of maintain the currency rate. So you would be able to like shop from one place, but then get money in that other currency. So that's something that maybe people didn't have before, but now they have it. So therefore, like that's an outcome, like they actually saving money. So my answer to your question is that it doesn't matter what type of product you have. You should not be thinking from the types of product. You need to be thinking about who your customer is, what kind of value do you want to give them, actually test for their willingness to pay for that solution, and then are you actually able to execute for it? And then kind of you go from there. So I know the products are really simple. Again, you kind of need to think about kind of that always, and then all the features that you come up with, they actually just become tools or answers to the bigger purpose. Hopefully that answers the question, but we can always talk about that more. I think there was a question here.
You saw that compliance was one of the top feedback that you got. What's your insight into data protection and security? Because I think this is one of the main concerns for many who want to use it. Yeah.
Well, compliance is definitely a big challenge. And like I can say for the customers that we work at Spryker, those are like really big, like for example, let's say we take Siemens Healthineers. So those are the companies that manufacture medical devices. Siemens obviously is a big known brand. They're not going to be easily adopting a tool that might leak out the information. But at the same time, kind of there's three different things that you can do. Either do nothing, which obviously is not going to be a good strategy. You can do something kind of disregarding any of the compliance issues, or you actually do something in between, which allows you to think about compliance and data and how do you actually protect it. So from my, like, I don't have a specific answer to how you actually solve for compliance, because it always depends which models are you using. Are they open source? Are they public? Are you using, I don't know, where do you store the data? Where do you get the data? Are you mixing the data from many customers, or everybody is isolated and protected? So there's like many different angles, but I would just rather say that find your early adopters for whom you're solving the problem that they want to solve with you, and then kind of start thinking about how do you actually, I know, do it in a safe environment first before you figure out all the other things of how to make it safe.
I think also it's happening these days. It's a learning curve, right? I mean, many providers started to understand that the GDPR and all these data need to be protected, so they are trying to find solutions. So maybe the answer will be different in 1 year from now.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, but at the same time, kind of that's an area where we're sitting at the moment. that we need to start doing something at the same time, like not to put businesses at risk, but also not doing something because of the compliance and data protection issues is not a good viable business strategy moving forward. So therefore, there's kind of like that middle ground, which comes with certain risks, but there will be more sustainable solutions moving forward.
More questions? Okay, I have one question. I'm sure they have it in mind. If I'm a PM working on a product that doesn't match revolution or evolution, do I'm forced to do AI products, or it's okay? Is it a shame?
Well, so if you're a product manager that doesn't either need evolution or revolution,
Yeah.
well, I think you always do. Like some people, most of the time don't realize that they actually need something, right? Because when you're adding, like most of the time when you work on a roadmap, and like if you go back and like take that slide that I shared, if you took a screenshot and then look at your roadmap, you will understand actually what are you doing. But most of the time people don't think about it. And then maybe their business is calling for the revolution, like you have to actually revolutionize your product because maybe you already used all of the leads in your existing market, but you're still kind of playing the evolution game where you're making your existing products a little bit better and better and better, but like it doesn't give you the results that you want from a business perspective. So therefore, I feel like you're always playing one or the other. Like most likely you actually have a combination of different bets that you're playing, but you probably don't fully kind of realize that until you actually start thinking about this more consciously.
Fully agree. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all so
Elena.
much. Hopefully that was helpful.